What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, and we are here, I guess, for the regular season finale edition of the UNC football show. AJ, is Carolina's season finale against NC State is fastly approaching as Carolina faces the 22nd ranked Wolfpack at 8 p.m. this Saturday in Carter Finley Stadium. That game will be on the ACC network. A game I know a lot of fans are, probably split on. Some probably really looking forward to it, and some probably a little bit terrified going into it with what might happen in that. But AJ, we're not here to talk about that right now. We got a bunch of things to talk about before we dive into the preview for this one. But let me say this real quick. This show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Stay tuned. We will talk about them a little bit later on in this episode. But AJ, you know where I'm going to start this one. If you've been following along as a consumer and watching all of our episodes, first of all, thank you. But second of all, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Let's start on the injury front, AJ, because it's been a pretty healthy Tar Heel team for most of this season. So what updates can you give us on the injury front for North Carolina heading into Saturday night's matchup with the Wolfpack?
I'm going to answer your question with a question for you. So what do you think this meant? I'm going to give you your two options and then ask the question. One, is it gamesmanship? Mm-hmm. Two, is it they got a lot of guys banged up, don't want anybody to know? Mm-hmm. So when we do our Monday press conference with Mac, Jeremy Sharp, who's the football media relations guy, yep, he will say to us before Mac walks to the podium, Mac's standing right there, he'll say, okay, a couple injury notes for you. Yep. Such and such has upper body, going to monitor him during the week. Such and such has lower body, we're going to monitor him during the week or whatever. He said, injury update is, I'm paraphrasing here, he said, some guys are banged up, we'll monitor. All right. So what do you think that means?
I think I'm leaning towards the second option. I think that's a little bit of we don't want anybody to, we're not going to give anything away this week. We've got a bunch of guys that are banged up a little bit, so we're just not going to say anything. I'm leaning towards that one, but that is a little bit unusual. That's the first time. Is that the first time they've done that this season?
Yeah.
It's like usually they're pretty specific.
A lot of guys had to get an aid on the field Saturday at Clemson. Yeah. They got banged up pretty good. Now, I also think it's the 12th game of the year. So anybody who's been playing 12 snaps or more a game is banged up.
Everybody's a little bit hurt.
They're all banged up. They're all hurt. They're all banged up. I mean, if you were to probably sit down in the second floor of the Kenan Football Center where the cafeteria is, where the food is, which always smells great when we go over there, sure it does, and the guys were to walk by, you'd hear creaking.
Oh yeah,
coming from emanating from their bodies.
Yeah,
and creaking and bruising, and like the extra 5 minutes in the ice bath this time of year as opposed to earlier in the year. So, yeah, I just think that they probably got a lot of dudes who's got to grit through it. Some of whom we're going to have to wait and see. It's going to be an interesting pregame as far as looking to see who's warming up. I haven't had to worry too much about that this year. There've been a handful of guys. We were doing that with Nate McCollum for a while. We did it with Caleb Hood and a few other guys. But the first guy I'm looking for Saturday night is Elijah Huzzie. Mm-hmm. True. Elijah went out early and didn't return the other night. So DJ Jones played 60 snaps at Star. So there are going to be some guys. So if you follow our threads, we start a thread about 2 hours before kickoff. Once I get to the stadium and I start looking for stuff like that, and I have binoculars, I'm up there, and sometimes I go down the field or take a different vantage point in the stadium. So we'll have a lot of notes on who's not warming up. I guess if we see Huzzie out there, that's a note. Elijah Huzzie's warm. We don't tweet it out. We put it in that thread. Yeah. As part of the value. And then we get some other tidbits I'm able to throw a pass along to everybody that we put in those threads as well. So I would say the pregame thread is going to be more interesting Saturday than it's been all year, because there are quite a few guys that I have questions about. I don't want to go into who they are now, but Huzzie is an obvious one because everybody knows he went out early and didn't return. So
yeah. For them not to mention Huzzie specifically is definitely different than what they've done this year, especially with him going out in that game. There has to be some kind of update on whether he's available.
That makes me think that they don't want NC State knowing.
And I
So,
like
and
that. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
As a straight up Joe reporter, when I walk in there, I want to know everything I can.
Yeah. From a reporter perspective. Yeah. But from a
stepping back and understanding where they're coming from, I totally get it.
Especially at this level, man. I mean, we talk about it. This
game.
Yeah, this game, the level of football they play. I mean, 1 or 2%, advantage can win you a football game. You know what I
mean? We're going to get into vibe here in a second, but I think maybe this is the first prong to what the vibe is this week at the Kenan Football Center.
Yeah.
And they're not giving an inch. And the way those last two meetings against this club ended, I think that they're zeroed in. Whatever was lacking the week of the Virginia game, my vibe right now is it's not lacking this week.
Yeah. Well, it's such a massive game. You're right. And especially when you look at what's happened over the last couple of meetings with the Wolfpack. So we'll talk about VOD now because it's a very interesting kind of week for the Tar Heels. When you look at what's happened to them over the last, like I said, month or so, we talked about that a lot. Losing at Clemson in kind of the fashion that they did, a lot of mistakes made in that game. Very easily, I'm not saying very easily could have won that game, but very easily could have made it a lot more interesting than it ended up being. When you look at those early turnovers in particular, I think the fans' vibe is there's always a lot of excitement going into the state game, but I think there's also a lot of this could be a really, really bad night in Raleigh when you look at it. Yeah, anxiety is probably a good word to throw at it. Yeah.
Well, we didn't plan on actually talking about this because I think the vibe of the fan base right now is a very fascinating conversation, as is the vibe of the team. I think the vibe of the fan base might be a longer conversation, to be honest with you, Jacob.
No, it is.
I would think that there's concern, there's fear, there's anxiety. I don't know how many Carolina fans are like, man, I can't wait to go in there and take care of them. I think it's more, I hope they go in there and take care of them. I don't know. I mean, it's hard. One of the things, and this is one of the reasons why I love this job as opposed to some of the other ones I've had before, because I interact with the fans more. So I think I have a better handle on what the fans are thinking. And I think it's important because they're the ones who pay the bills ultimately, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For us and for these teams, if the fans weren't there, I wouldn't have the job. You wouldn't have the job. And Mac would be making $500 a week coaching high school football or something. So that's the fans are very, very important. And I think it's all, and I think they're interesting.
Yeah.
And when we ask questions on these videos, whether I do it on the daily drops or something like that, and say, we want to know what you think, we really do. I want to know what people think. And I am guessing that there's a lot of anxiety going into this game. They don't want to lose a third in a row. The last 2 years they lost games they should have won to this team.
Yeah.
And maybe now the way the trajectory is going, State's going like this, and Dave Doran has figured out a way to win games with this team. He's done a hell of a job. He deserves serious consideration for ACC Coach of the Year. Absolutely. When you look at the size of the job that he's done, Carolina's going this way.
Yeah.
Mac's not getting any votes. Shouldn't. They're going. These two teams are going opposite directions. State's ranked in the CFP now.
I know.
Remember 24-3 at Duke.
I think.
Remember, and Carolina's 6-0, number 10 in the country. Nobody thought that this would. There isn't one person alive who laid down a $10 bill and said, "This is going to be the case Thanksgiving week." Nobody would have done that, but now it is the case. So I would think that Carolina fans have a tremendous amount of anxiety going into this game and not a tremendous amount of confidence.
Well, I think let me just hit on that, because what I was going to say before you even said that was I think there's a sense among the fan base of kind of how the heck did we get here? Of like, all of a sudden, the way State started the season, with quarterback controversies, this and that, and MJ Morris 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, saying he's gonna redshirt. You got to bring the other quarterback in, and they're still winning games. I think there's a sense of, like I said, how did we get to this position where all of a sudden State's ahead of us in the ACC? We're going into this matchup with the same record. State, we were, number 10, a month or so ago. Now we're not ranked again, and State's ranked. Like, how do we get to? I think fans are sitting there like, how did we get here? Like, what happened? And I think that's where there's a lot of anxiety going into this game, or a lot of, I don't know if hope's the right word, like you said, of like, some games we've seen in the past of like, I can't wait for Carolina to go in there and steamroll these Wolfpack. that's not the vibe right now. It's almost like, well, I hope they win on Saturday night, but I'm not very confident they will. You know what I mean? I think that's the vibe around the fans right now. So is that the vibe with the team, or are you getting something completely opposite?
No, I want to comment on something that you said when you said, how did we get here? And then I'll respond directly to your question.
Okay, go ahead.
A lot of fans mock the term chopping wood, and Dave Doran's a chopping wood kind of guy, right?
Yeah, blue collar kind of approach.
But
yeah,
NC State's been chopping wood. I mean,
yeah,
theoretically and legitimately, realistically, 100%. They've been chopping wood. When Morris decided he was going to sit out, people thought Wolfpack was done. But man, Brendan Armstrong, who's a UVA guy, who basically ran a quarterback for a year, and then he gets benched, and then it's like Dave Doran said, "Well, oops, we actually need you now." And credit him. I think his attitude has been the attitude of that team, which is why they've done what they've done. So State's been chopping wood, and Carolina for the last month can't find its axe.
No,
that's the key. Now, I think the axe is in Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. And it may show itself at the end Saturday night in the form of a flag. But I think the vibe in Chapel Hill, to answer your question, is really good right now. That's the vibe I'm getting over there. I thought that the Clemson loss would linger. I thought the Clemson loss was tougher to swallow than any of the other ones. And I think at the moment, and Saturday night it was. When they lose, we only talk to two guys. We talk to Drake and Cedric. They're the spokesmen, and they're really good. And Cedric is just off the charts good at it, right? They were down, and Mac was really down Saturday night because that was a game that they put themselves in position to put a foot on the throat of Clemson early, and they didn't do it, just like they didn't do it against Duke. They got fortunate against Duke, couldn't overcome that against Clemson in that place. So I thought, man, this is going to linger. But it didn't, because all they had to do was look at the flag in the soil. And it sounds simple, but it's true. And by the way, you guys had those games in hand and blew both of them the last 2 years. And it's NC State. And look at all the crap they're saying. And how about their fans? Their fans annoy the crap out of you, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to go into that hornet's nest. Last week I called it a drunken hornet's nest. And it is. And that's what makes it great.
It's a wild atmosphere.
The people are going to be tailgating at 10 a.m. for an 8 o'clock game. They're going to be frothing 100%. At the mouth, literally. And that's what makes it awesome. So I think the Tar Heels, I got the vibe of the Virginia week that something was off a little bit. Maybe they didn't have a great buzz. And the next week for Georgia Tech, I told you I thought Virginia lingered. Yeah, I came up here on our show and said Virginia was lingering. That's the vibe I got. And I usually trust my instincts on this. I think they got a great vibe. I think the team's dialed in. I think they're having a great week of preparation. They understand. We got more technical talk from Kamen Rucker and Cedric Gray on Tuesday than we have at any time this year about how State uses Kevin Concepcion, all the different eye candy, some of the things they do when they run Armstrong, when they pull a tackle to get an extra blocker out there. And they know Armstrong, but they know Armstrong as a big thrower at Virginia, as a guy who struggled at Virginia because their offensive line was abysmal last year, and then how State's using him. And they know that he's tough, and they know he's a guy that doesn't go down. So when I say chopping wood, I mean, he fits in over there. He's a quarterback that won't slide. He'll get that extra yard. And I think Carolina is preparing themselves to have a lunch pail mentality when they take the field Saturday night. Whether or not they win and it's enough, I don't know. But I do think that when Mac wakes up Saturday morning or gets on the bus to go over there, he'll say, okay, we had as good a week as we can have. I think that that's taking place in Chapel Hill right now. And that's a good sign, because I don't think they've had great weeks for a while.
No, I would agree. We've talked about that a lot on this show, but that is, from a Carolina, for fans listening, that should be a positive going into this game. And again, I think I said it to you off camera. If you can't get up for this game, particularly when you look at what's happened over the last, 2 meetings against the Wolfpack in the past couple of years, I don't really know what to tell you. You're not going to be able to get up for any game. So I think it's a game that Carolina will and should be up for, and both teams will be up for it. But if Carolina approaches it the right way, I think they have a lot better chance at coming out of Raleigh with the victory, because there's no doubt about it. This team can beat NC State. Let's not get it twisted here. That they can beat NC State. but will they when you look at how they played, I think is the question on a lot of fans' minds right now. So we'll move it on to kind of the flag in the soil message. I know that was a big talking point during the Tuesday press conferences with the players because of what State did last year, planting a flag. And let me just say this, they may have planted a flag, but you can't technically plant a flag on turf. It doesn't really go in the ground. So they tried to plant it.
But this is different. It's not like the artificial turf of the 80s where it was like a welcome mat rolled out on top of concrete.
Yeah, but it's not going in there.
But you know what I mean? I don't know.
You can move some of those beads, but I don't think it's going to stay there. I think in Raleigh, you can shove that sucker in the grass and it's going to stay there. I'm not sure you can do that in Kenan, but
it's the thought that counts. What do we say at Christmas or birthday? It's the thought that counts, right?
Yeah, the intent.
And I got a photo of it from the press box. I found it yesterday and on Tuesday, and I put out the Cayman Rucker tweet, which is a quote, which is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. When I put that tweet out with his quote, and I put the photo in there, and I went and found some other photos. There was Getty Images had a photo, and maybe AP had a photo and stuff. I don't know if we have one in our gallery. I couldn't find it.
I'm not sure.
But nobody would have expected to take. Who would have thought to take that photo? So
exactly. Yeah,
the flag in the soil is a great thing. I absolutely adore stuff like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was totally disrespectful by NC State, and kudos to them, right? Yeah. This stuff's
I'm
fun.
all for that in a rivalry. I'm
all for hatred. I'm all for rubbing your nose in it in these kinds 100%. Of games. That's what makes them so special, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you should. And Cedric Gray was talking about it. He brought it up on his own. I was asking some guys about it Tuesday, but Cedric brought it up on his own, and he said, I can't wait to go over there and beat them and plant our flag in their soil.
Yeah.
So if Carolina wins, I fully expect Cedric to do that. I'm gonna hold him accountable for it because he said he was.
And I'll be standing on the 50 after the game waiting for it too. So.
and you know what? If he does, it will be disrespectful to NC State, and that's just fabulous, right?
Well, that's what you want in a rivalry. Exactly.
We need more disrespect in this game.
Yeah, that's what we want. So I thought that was just an interesting
we need
take.
More juice.
Yeah.
And I think, and to continue on that, I think that the flag in the soil is great for Carolina because the venom in this football rivalry has always been a heavy lean toward NC State.
Yeah.
The hatred that State has for Carolina in some respects might be a little unhinged, might be a little unhealthy, but at the same time, it's awesome. I love it. I love going over there for basketball games when you're right there on the floor and you could just feel the hate. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Good old-fashioned hate fest.
I love going over to Carter. I love going over there to Carter Finley. That place is going to be just a blithering mess at a zoo Saturday night, and that's what's so beautiful about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think what this has done is the Carolina players, they got some hatred for NC State. So, and I think UNC fans do too, and maybe the flag has made it okay for them to express it, and maybe Cayman Rucker, and you can read the quote in a second, basically saying, you can't come into my living room and take a you-know-what.
Yeah, in the middle of the floor.
And it'd be okay. Cedric Gray, I think maybe the Carolina players have made a little bit kosher for Carolina fans to show hatred for State because I think that there is a lot of hatred for State, but for whatever reason, Carolina fans felt like it was part of their getting under the Wolfpack skin to tell them that they're not their rival when in fact they really are their rival.
Yeah. I tweeted about it a few weeks ago. I forgot why it was coming up, but State and Carolina fans going at each other as they always do on Twitter. But I tweeted out something to the extent of I've never understood the argument that Carolina fans don't consider NC State a rival. And like you said, I think a lot of it is kind of a playful thing to get under State fan skins in some respects, but I also think there's a lot of people who truly believe that. And I tweeted the same thing. I'm going to come out and say it right here. State and Carolina are 100% rivals. And my number one message with that is, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with admitting that this is a rivalry game. I mean, come on, guys. What are we saying? How are Carolina fans going to sit here and say, nah, NC State's not our rival? That's just not a true statement, man. And again, that's okay. So I want to come on here and clear there because I always get frustrated when I see people legitimately making the argument that no, State's not our rival. We don't care less about NC State. It's like, as a guy who's been on the sidelines of a lot of these games, he covered a lot of these games, football and basketball. It's different in football. It's taken up a higher notch because of the rivalry between Duke and Carolina in basketball, and the fact that State's just not very good in basketball. Carolina tends to whoop them for the most part, besides last year. But it is 100% a rival, and it goes in. It's every sport at this point. So I just got to say that because I'm just tired of hearing it because it's just not true. And again, it's okay to admit it's a rivalry. There's nothing wrong with that.
I love it. I want more of it.
Yeah. Should be. I mean, imagine having a school in your same conference, X amount of miles of 20 miles away. It's probably not even that far. And nah, they're not a rival. It's like, trust me, it's a rivalry. I've seen it with my own two eyes many a times. It is a rivalry.
It's a rivalry.
Yeah.
And the rivalry will be on steroids this weekend.
Oh God. Yeah. Will it
in that place. And I know you didn't like the fact that it's a night game, but I kind of do.
I like it for the spectacle. You know what I hate about night games, AJ?
You just nailed it. You just nailed it.
But you know what also I hate? I just hate having to sit around all day waiting for a football game. Let's get this thing
I'm with you,
man. Like, you know what I mean? Let's get it going.
I want to get up and get it going.
All day waiting for this game to start.
Yeah, but you just said
spectacle, yeah, it's better as a night game.
It's a spectacle. And one of the things that I think is really cool, if you're an NC State football fan, you really got to appreciate this, is that the environment there and the fan base is starting to develop an identity known outside of Wake County. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. And I think that's good for ACC football. I think it's good for football in this state, certainly here in the Triangle. You know, Carolina's had some really, really good crowds this year. Yeah. Really good crowds. App State was a good atmosphere, but Miami and Duke, the atmospheres were as good as it gets.
Yeah, they were really good.
They were phenomenal. And even Minnesota at times and Syracuse at times was pretty good. It's better. Yeah. It's better than, see, they have a bad rap that's somewhat earned, but I think it's the low hanging fruit take to say, the Carolina fans don't care. I think that's BS. They do care. I was trying to explain to someone who covers NC State yesterday, sort of the Lucy pulling the ball from Charlie syndrome that a lot of Carolina fans have. And I totally understand that. That's why it's really hard sometimes for them to totally buy in. And it's going to be much harder moving forward because they've gone from 9-1 to falling off a cliff to 6-0 to theoretically falling off a cliff, or at least stumbling down a steep hillside, which is what they've done. So I get it. But I think that NC State's fans taking on a persona and getting a label. And when people say, boy, you know, Carter Finley at night, they're saying stuff like that now about State that they used to say about Virginia Tech and Lane Stadium. And I think it's great. And the fact that NC State has become a pretty good football school. Now, there are empties there at times and no one ever wants to talk about it. But so what? The atmosphere is still great, even if there's a few thousand empty seats. That's not a big deal. There's empty seats everywhere nowadays. Oh, God. So I love this game. I love this game over there better than I do at Chapel Hill. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's probably because of the atmosphere more than anything else. Maybe it's the uniform combinations. I'm a bigger fan of Carolina's road uniforms than home uniforms. Same thing in basketball. Like, I prefer the Carolina Duke game at Duke more than at the Dean Dome, but I love it at the Dean Dome too, if you know what I'm saying. And I like this one at Carter Finley more than I do at Kenan, maybe for those same reasons. But I can't wait. I think it's great. And going back to the Carolina fans, they're going to be anxious. But if Carolina wins and they're playing well, the fist pumping and the yelling and the attaboys by Carolina fans will be more intense for this game than any game they played this year. And Twitter is going to be an amazing spectacle Saturday night, one way or the other.
It really will be. That's the most fascinating part about it, arguably, is what's going to happen on Twitter during and after the game, depending on whoever wins. But that's what you expect with a rivalry, because, again, it's a rivalry, and that's okay. That's my last message for you guys on that front. Sticking on the rivalry real quick before we move into the preview, AJ, you sent me you sent me a text this before we hopped on this podcast. You sent me an article as well, and you know, I'd obviously known that Carolina and State, for whatever reason, don't play for anything. And what I mean by that is, you know, Carolina and Duke play for the victory bell, and there's countless other things that teams across the country play for when it comes to rivalry games. And I got to thinking, it's like, well, I know you have an article coming out. It'll be out probably by the time that this podcast is out, about some of the players' thoughts on it and what they could potentially play for, and maybe liking the idea of playing for something. But to me, I almost can't wrap my head around the fact that Carolina and State don't play for anything. I mean, when you look at it, you look at the fact that they play each other pretty much every year for God knows how long. And there's no really trophy that comes along with it. Basically, there's just bragging rights for a year where State fans are going to consistently bring up the fact that, well, we beat you in football, and Carolina fans are going to, pick at it too. Of like, yeah, well, we beat you in football. That's the only thing that really comes with this rivalry nowadays, is those bragging rights on social media and in person, because there's a lot of, State fans in the area, a lot of Carolina fans in the area. So I to me, it's just, we'll pose the question to the audience real quick. If there's would you like to see Carolina and State play for some? I think it's going to be yes. If so, what would it be? Because I know some of the players brought up like barbecue trophy or like a silver triangle. Maybe that was your idea, something to do with barbecue, like I said.
Yeah.
I forget, something maybe to do with an oak tree, because, City of Oaks and Raleigh is obviously a plenty across the state as well. I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around what a good trophy would be for this rivalry. But I mean, that's got to happen at some point, guys. Like, come on, can we not make that happen between two athletic departments? Can we not come together for a second, come up with the trophy idea and implement it? Because to me, it just doesn't make any sense. It's got to be one of the few rivalries in college football that consistently plays every year that doesn't play for anything. I just find it very interesting, and I'm a little confused as to why it hasn't been implemented before. It's just a weird one to me.
Yeah, you could be really creative with it. There's 90 different oak trees. Yeah, I looked this up. Obviously, I'm not a tree nerd. There's 90 different oak trees in the state of North Carolina. Raleigh's, one of its monikers is City of Oaks, right?
Yeah. You could even make the trophy out of oak wood. You could do something cool like that. Well,
absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Or pine trees, since pine trees are throughout. And I like to call it in stadium, I like to say it's among the pines. It's never caught on, but I think it's kind of cool because the pines surround the stadium.
That'd be cool. What if half the trophy was made of oak and half the trophy was made of pine? That would be pretty sick.
The pine oak trophy.
The name's not great, but we could workshop the name. We could figure something out.
Well, but a lot of these names weren't great when they first came out, and then the Victory Bell saying, okay, well, that's exciting. You really reached deep down cool for that one. Mm-hmm. And UCLA, USC play for a Victory Bell.
Yeah,
I think like Miami of Ohio and Ball State play for a Victory Bell too. So imagine that.
Not necessarily unique.
It's not the old oaken bucket. It's not the little brown jug, or like Indiana, Michigan State play for the brass spittoon.
Yeah, I saw that. That one was fantastic. It was literally like a vase.
And which is great. So maybe the pine oak award, the pine oak trophy would be really cool.
I think we're on to silver
triangle.
I really do.
Because Cedric, I asked him about it. He brought up triangle. He said, well, we'd be the kings of the triangle or something. Okay, silver triangle or something along those lines. I think the only
issue with that is you have to bring. You're kind of leaving out Duke in that one. So it's like, it's if you could have like a little trophy between the three schools, that would be a great idea. But
like the Commander-in-Chief's trophy is between Army, Navy, and Air Force.
Yeah.
That could be so. Or if you really want to be really wild, you can get like a golden tire for NASCAR, since it's a NASCAR state, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you want to get real crazy with it, yeah.
By the way, pardon me, my phone is blowing the hell up today. I'm not in the Bahamas this week for basketball because of the NC State game. I've got a guy there, and he's calling me and sending me text messages. Dina just called. It's like, good gracious, guys. It's Wednesday morning. They know what I do Wednesday morning. Yeah, anyway, so that's why I keep looking down. If I hold it like this, it'll light up in just a second. Someone's going to call me. Bill collector. Friend, hey, how's it going? I haven't talked to you in 3 years, and call me during my podcast. Anyway, maybe it's people calling with ideas of what this game should be called. They should play for something. I thought Kamen Rucker had a really cool idea, which was interesting, and Cedric laughed when I told him about it. But he said that if Carolina wins, they should get the Walk the Wolf out the next year.
Ooh, that's kind of cool.
And if State wins, they should get to walk out Ramses the next year.
Ooh, I like that. That adds a little bit more of like a personal kind of
maybe. So put a Carolina blue bandana around the wolf and paint Ramses' horns red.
That's actually really good. I could get behind that. I don't know if that would ever be approved by both athletic departments, but in terms of you want to bring some real, even more hatred into this rivalry, make it even more personal, do something like that.
But if you really want to connect it, you should make it something that the fans have to do, which would really raise the bar on the hatred.
Yeah.
So, for example, if Carolina wins, NC State fans the next year have to drink white wine the day of the game and not beer. And if State wins, Carolina fans, all those guys that are drinking white wine and eating brie before the game and wheatberry salad, they should have to eat like ribs and drink Budweiser.
Old Tuffy or whatever the heck it's called.
Or Old Tuffy. That's right. Yes. Michael Coach said Old Tuffy. You're right. If Carolina has a beer, they should do the Carolina beer for State, and you have to drink Old Tuffy. So imagine a bunch of crushed up Old Tuffies all over wherever the tailgating is. I guess the Bulls lot where the most tailgating is. Something to make the fans have to do something. That'll really know
a little bit. Elevate the hatred a little bit more. I can definitely get behind that. You got to make it a little more personal. So we're workshopping this idea. Let us know. And real
quickly, read the Kenan Rucker quote.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Go ahead and read it. Because you read it earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pull it up because this is meant. And just before you do, Kenan Rucker's a mild-mannered guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's a mild-mannered guy. He is he's one of those dudes that's a great handshaker, and he's I could see Kenan Rucker, being a community leader kind of guy. So for him to say this, I would have thought Cedric might say it. Not that Cedric can't be a community leader, but Cedric's a little bit rougher around the edges in the sense that he's more a grizzled guy, I guess, than Kenan.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'll read it off real quick. I think it raises the bar tremendously. It's very disrespectful. You put a flag in the middle of our place and what we call home, that's like you taking a load in the middle of the house in the living room. That's just a great quote by him. It's a fantastic quote.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic.
I tweeted it out yesterday, and it's generated quite a bit of activity. But I think it's great. I think that's the attitude that we need. Mm-hmm. And they need to play for something, and they need to I thought the Carolina Duke victory bell thing went up a notch when the Carolina players ran over and spray painted it back when they were allowed to spray paint it and caused all that damage in the Duke locker room and had to write a check for $75,000 or whatever. To me, that's great stuff.
It's fantastic.
Locker room got fixed. It got cleaned up. I'm sure that was a $75,000 check that Bubba Cunningham was happy to sign and send. Mm-hmm. So we need more stuff like that. This is a big Venom show.
Yeah, we need
more Venom. Yeah, we need more Venom. We need more hate and Venom this week.
Yeah, we need a little something to play for too. So we're workshopping the idea again. Let us know after you listen to the show. Get involved on Twitter if you have any good ideas. Heel Illustrated, let us know, and we'll continue to workshop this and see if we can find up something good. But I'm leaning towards that pine and oak. I think we're onto something there. I do. I don't know about the name yet, but I think we're onto something with that. I might have to write a letter to Bubba and let him know.
The pine oak slab.
Yeah, just something. Half pine, half oak.
Slab sounds better than trophy. It's a little rougher around the edge.
Maybe a ram on one side and a wolf, maybe like jumping at each other.
Pine oak.
The wood. Yeah. Maybe heads locked.
Look, this is a textile state. Yeah. Think about where is it? Where they have all the wood furniture, this end up furniture and stuff like that down there in it's outside of High Point. You know what I'm talking about. I'm drawing a blank right now. Why not?
Yeah.
Make it that.
I'm all for it.
All right.
I'm all for it.
All right.
Real quickly, guys, before we dive into the preview, though, we do need to take a quick second to thank our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, because they are the official fantasy partner of TarHeelIllustrated.com. And Underdog, super easy to use. Just go on the app, go pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total than what is listed. Do that with 2 to 5 different players, and you're good to go. If you go 5 for 5, you can even 20x your money. For example, maybe this Sunday you want to put together an entry with a UNC alum in the NFL. So let's go with Sam Howell. So maybe you could select an entry with Sam Howell, all going higher than his stat total that they've projected in the app. It's that simple. So if it's 250 yards throwing and he throws for 251 yards, you hit it, you win the money. It's that easy, guys. It's not rocket science. Super easy to play. We see a lot of you are downloading the app. Great to see. Keep doing that. If you haven't yet, check it out. You can find them in the App Store or check them out at underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you use the promo code HEAL to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Links in the description below. Must be 18 plus. Present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ncpgambling.org. Big thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this show. Again, links in the description below. But AJ, let's dive into the preview. 8 p.m. kickoff in Carter Finley between these teams. NC State sitting at 8-3, 5-2 in ACC. Play losses coming to Notre Dame, Louisville, and Duke. Most of those coming earlier in the season. They have won 4 straight coming into this matchup. This is the interesting part for me, AJ. These two teams are a lot more similar than people think. It's just they're similar in different ways. Third worst offense in the ACC right now, the Wolfpack are about 332 yards per game, but they rank as the third best defense, allowing only 318 yards per game. So a really good defense over there in Raleigh, and have been very consistent for the most part this season, particularly over the last month or so. And again, you're saying, well, they're similar. Here's why they're similar. UNC ranks as the third worst defense in the ACC, 396.5 yards per game, but the best offense in the ACC. So you're talking about NC State team defensively really good, offensively struggling. Talking about a Carolina team defensively really struggling, and offense that's really, really good. So similar in different ways, if that makes sense, which I think makes this matchup incredibly intriguing, besides the fact that it's a rivalry game too. So the last thing I'll throw in here, AJ, I thought this was interesting. Only one ranked victory between both teams this season. That was UNC beating 25th ranked Miami, which just seems like light years ago. So another interesting kind of look at this roster. State doing, or at this schedule, State doing pretty well, but wins haven't been over the best teams. But again, got to give them credit because of winning these games. And even Carolina, you could say, well, they've beaten some decent teams this year, but they've also lost some games, Virginia and Georgia Tech, that they definitely shouldn't have lost. So just in both teams entering this matchup in very kind of different ways. Carolina having struggled a lot over the past month, and again, State having won 4 straight, seem to have figured some stuff out. And again, Dave Doran, ACC Coach of the Year conversations coming up. It's just two kind of different vibes that both programs are approaching this game in. But does that really matter in a rivalry game? It's a very cliche thing to say, oh, this stuff goes out the window in a rivalry game, which I think is true in some ways, but also not true in other ways. But I think it'll definitely play a factor on Saturday night, AJ. So what does Carolina have to do to win? Let's just talk about that.
Well, let me comment on a couple of things you said first. I think when you're in your 12th game of the season, you kind of are who you are.
Yeah. Carolina is who they are. State is who they are too, for the most part.
In the end, the bulletin board material stuff, the flag in the ground, yeah, that's great. It might find itself on the field at some point in the game, but I think in the end, you got to win at the line of scrimmage. I mean, I say this every week. It's a simple game. You win at the line of scrimmage, then you're going to win. Now, I will say about the third number 3 defense versus number 3 offense, or is Carolina number 3 offense, you said?
Carolina's got the best offense in the league, but
no, State has the third worst offense.
Worst offense. Carolina has the
well, here's the thing, though. I think I'm going to say something that people are going to be a little surprised by, but it's true. Carolina's defense is not as bad as the general low-hanging fruit take is on them. What's the problem is that they've had periods where they've been really bad.
Yeah.
But they've had periods that have been really good. Last week versus Clemson, they forced 6 3-and-outs. Mm-hmm. And they held Clemson to 6 for 19 on third down. Now, to combat that, they still allowed Clemson to run 92 plays. How does that happen?
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
It's because they gave up a bunch, 10, 11, 12-play drives. And the 11-play drive at the end of the half, to me, was the most perplexing. I asked Gene about it Monday, and they allowed Clemson to run 11 plays in 71 seconds without the benefit of having a timeout. That's one of those, well, you won't see that again in a long time, because that was just terrible. Now, there were some things that happened, I know, on that drive that kept it going. Maybe there was a bad call or two or whatever the case may be, but they still didn't keep the ball in bounds. They allowed Clemson to get out of bounds and stop the clock. So, and State's offense might not be great against a lot of other teams, but it might work against this defense because Carolina's troubles running quarterbacks and the physicality up front. There's the eye candy. Carolina's had some issues recently with gap discipline. And when you run things wide and you run a quarterback a lot, making your fits are obviously key, but it's really hard to make your fits. It just becomes about striking blocks. Gene was talking Monday about the need to strike blocks because so much of this is going to be flowing one way or the other. So you got to fight off the block and then make the play. And that's different than just making your fits. So this is going to be a lot of mano-a-mano stuff. So what team is better in the mano-a-mano stuff? That's probably going to be the key. Carolina's offense is probably going to have enough success to win the game. The question is, will the defense allow it to win the game? Yeah. So if they limit the 12-play drives, if they limit the penalty on 3rd and 8 when you get a 4-yard stop and the penalty extends a drive, if they limit stuff like that, then they should win the game. Because I think they're more talented. I think that if you look at the whole of the season, they've been a better team. They're just going in different directions right now. And for a while there, Carolina was a really polished, all the boxes checked team. They were. But something happened. The weekend, they ate the cheese. They ate Max Poisonous cheddar cheese, and they haven't recovered. Yeah. And their stomach's still upset. So maybe they flushed their system. Maybe Saturday in Death Valley, the system was flushed. Maybe the videos or the photos of the flag being planted in the middle of the field flushed the system. I don't know. I'm looking for catchy little things to say here, but I think they go in ready to play. State's ready to play. Carolina's got more bells and whistles. But bells and whistles are only going to help you when you're at least almost 50-50 at the line of scrimmage. That's where this game's going to be won or lost. And I think State's pretty solid there. So that's going to be a challenge for the Tar Heels. I think Carolina's going to win this game because I think that the mindset has returned a little bit. Focus on the opponent, focus on self at a high level where it was before Virginia. I don't think the focus was great for Virginia, and I think that it was tainted ever since then. I don't think they've had great focus for the entire week leading in since then. I think there's been a lot of stuff getting in the way. Now I think they're ready to go, and I think you'll see a pretty good version of the Tar Heels on Saturday. The question is how good a version of the Wolfpack will we see? Yeah. If Wolfpack can match it and it's even on the field, then I think being at home gives them a little bit of an edge.
Agreed.
But I'm going to go with Carolina in a narrow win. I think it's going to be a fun game, exciting game. I hope if Carolina wins, I hope they plant a flag in the soil because I want to see drama. I want to see how that plays out. And I'm all about raising the bar of hate in games like this. There should be a T-shirt that can be made for rivalry games. Hate is healthy.
Yeah, bring back hating each other. I think it's a fine thing to do in rivalries. I think we need more of that in sports. It's okay to hate a team, a program, an opponent in sports. That's what makes it so great, for lack of a better word. But yeah, no, I agree. You're swaying me a little bit because in my staff picks, which I sent in on Monday.
Don't let me sway you on a prediction.
Yeah. I picked
anybody that ever follows what I say is they're living under a bridge now. They lost their house a long time ago.
If you're listening to our predictions and taking them as betting on them, or you'd be like, oh, AJ and Jacob said Carolina's going to win, so I'll put that bet in. Don't do it because we have it's a prediction and I'm just guessing half the time. For me, I think State wins 31-28. That was my staff prediction. You're swaying me a little bit because when I sent those staff pick question in with those staff pick predictions in, I hadn't listened to the press conferences and talked to you about it and heard some of the things that are coming out of the program this week, which gives me a little bit more confidence that Carolina can go in there and will have the right mindset to win. My prediction was based off what I've seen from this team over the last month. Going up against a State team that, again, is kind of trending in the right direction. Carolina doing the opposite right now, going into Raleigh. I know it's a rivalry game, so things can kind of go out the window in that respect. But I always base my predictions on what I've seen from a team in the last month. And I find it hard to pick Carolina to beat just about anybody right now because of how they've played again over the last month or so. So that's kind of where my prediction stems from. But like I said earlier in the show, would I be surprised if North Carolina beat NC State? Absolutely not, because they can beat NC State, and I think they could beat them by double digits if they play well enough. But again, if you would have asked me 2 months ago who wins this game, Carolina, no doubt, not a question in my mind. They win by 3 touchdowns. Now that confidence in what I've seen from this team has just dwindled, and I think they'll struggle to beat anybody. So I'll stick by my prediction now. But again, you're swaying me a little bit, and I'm not as confident that State wins now than maybe I was a couple of days ago, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I advise you not to let me sway you. Let's do a giveaway again. Let's do another giveaway. I just thought of this when you were talking. Okay, Peyton Wilson versus Cedric Gray. Yeah, 2 best linebackers. Well, I wouldn't say. I mean, Barrett Carter's damn good too, but 2 of the best linebackers in college football.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And both in-state guys, which is awesome. It's great to see in-state guys do really, really well. Okay, so the question is, and this is I'm going to give away 3 free months to THI. What you need to do is get the number of tackles Peyton Wilson gets and the number of tackles Cedric Gray gets. Get it right.
I like that.
As a tiebreaker, let's add in TFLs. And as a second tiebreaker, number of TFLs, and as a second tiebreaker, who gets a pick?
Okay, I like that. So number of tackles, number of TFLs.
Number of tackles for both Wilson and Gray. Okay, that'll be the first thing. As a tiebreaker, number of TFLs. And as a second tiebreaker, because we're not going to be Jim Phillips and just flip a coin. As a second tiebreaker, who gets a pick?
I like
or a fumble recovery.
I like that.
However you
who
say.
Forces it, yeah, who gets the turnover, yeah. Okay.
So whoever gets it right is going to get 3 free months to THI.
Get those predictions in before the game, obviously. Can't send them in the second half. You know what I mean?
And appreciate, and for local football fans in this area, appreciate the fact that you've got 2 awesome, badass dudes at linebacker in this game.
2 good players. Carolina fans absolutely hate Peyton Wilson. I'm sure State fans absolutely hate Cedric Gray. And again, that's okay. Bring back.
I think this is one thing where Carolina fans have more hate in their blood than
yeah. We know why. We don't need to rehash it, but
Cedric's
we know why.
a very likable guy, and he never committed to NC State. But Peyton Wilson, not only did he decommit, but he nuked and paved as he did it. So
every chance he gets, yeah. So again, that's great. That's what makes the rivalries fun, man. We need stuff.
So
like
let
that.
us know. Send us a DM on Twitter.
Yep. At
so
Heel Illustrated.
even if we're not following you, you can still send us a DM. We'll see it at Heel Illustrated, not Heels. Heel
Links in the description. Always.
If you're not following us, follow us.
Give us a follow.
It makes total sense. But we'll see it. Let us know. You got to have your pick in by, I'd say, Saturday at 3:00.
Okay.
Got to have it in by Saturday at 3:00.
Saturday at 3, guys. Get your predictions, or your I guess it isn't predictions in, and again, DM us at Heel Illustrated. Link to our socials is always in the description of every video we post. So if you're ever trying to figure out where we are on socials, it's always down there. Just click it. And we're looking forward to hearing from you guys. And send us your trophy, victory, whatever, bell ideas, whatever you want to call it. Let us know.
I'm thinking Pine Oak. I'm thinking Pine Oak.
I'm leaning towards that.
Pine Oak.
I think we've got something with that. I need to sit down with Bubba or somebody and see if I can bring these 2 programs together for 15 seconds to come up with the trophy idea. Because what are we doing? Come on, guys, play every single
all
year.
All blue versus all red. All blue.
Yeah, all blue versus all red. I'm telling you, man.
Versus all red.
They need to get us somewhere, because we got some good ideas when it comes to game day stuff. I'm telling you,
we should be in charge.
We should be
in charge of everything.
Just let me be like a I don't know what the right word is, but let me just be somebody who can kind of oversee things and when bring me the ideas you have, and I'll tell you if they suck or not, and I'll tell you what you should do instead. I think I'd be pretty good at that. We've got some good ideas on here. So, guys, we want to hear from you. Make sure you get involved as well. Yeah, go ahead.
You got my vote.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I think I do a good job. I don't want to just let me oversee some things. I won't get too involved. You just got a good idea, bring it to me. I'll let you know if it sucks or not, and let you know what you should do instead. So I think I'd be pretty good at that job. I think everybody probably thinks I'd be pretty good at that job. But
I can't wait till Saturday night. It's gonna be so.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I only go over there once every other year now. I used to go over there a lot when I was in my other jobs, and it's always fun. There's a lot of good people over there. I always look forward to seeing too. So this is gonna be fun. I want these two schools to hate each other like it's their birthright.
100%.
I want to be in
great.
the DNA. I want to be in the DNA. So if Carolina wins Saturday night and Cedric puts that flag in the soil, to me that would be meant. He's going to be still be the star of the game just for that.
Oh, it'd be fantastic. It'd be fantastic. I'm looking forward to that.
And if State wins, I mean, they're going to put a flag in their own field, right? What would they do? Go over and put a flag on the Carolina sideline?
Probably. Yeah, they would definitely.
I hope if State wins, do something to troll Carolina. Just do something to troll them.
Yeah, make it fun, make it competitive, make it a lot of hate in the stadium between both teams, because there will be between both fan bases. It'll be a good.
As long as there's no violence, we don't want any violence.
None of that. Nobody has time for that. No.
But just you can hate and not hurt.
You can respectfully hate somebody.
That's a very 2023 thing to say.
Yeah, you can respectfully hate
don't
somebody.
Hurt.
Yeah, we're not advocating violence. Don't fight.
You don't have to respect them. I'm going to disagree with you on that. We don't have to respect them.
Yeah, just
hate them.
Physical
hate them and leave them be.
Yeah, that's what makes rivalries great. So, good old fashioned hate fest incoming on Saturday evening in Carter Finley.
Eddie Landreth
there for it. So
Eddie Landreth.
Yep, that's one of my favorite quotes. One of my favorite quotes because it is a fact.
Rest in peace, the great Eddie Landreth. God rest his soul. I'm going to tell it again. I'm going to do it again. People have heard it before. You've heard it 1,000 times. Sitting next to him, courtside, back when the media used to sit right there on the sideline, basketball. We're right near midcourt. Carolina State getting ready to tip off. Eddie's sitting to my left, and he said, no, he's sitting to my right, and he said, to the effect, paraphrasing the first part, one of the reasons why I like this game, and this is the direct quote, it's a good old-fashioned blanking hate fest.
It's awesome, man. It's such a great quote. It really
Eddie was awesome. Loved Eddie.
And if you've been to a Carolina State football or basketball game, you know exactly what we're talking about. So it'll be another good old-fashioned hate fest in Raleigh on Saturday night. And again, that's what makes it fun, and we'll be there for every second of it. So make sure you keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell too. And again, we'll keep blasting them because they keep sponsoring us and we love working with them. Underdog Fantasy, promo code HEAL to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Links in the description below. All you got to do is click it, sign up, and you're good to go. See you guys later, and appreciate y'all watching as always. Thanks.